Hey everybody, today we're going to be making open-faced tomato sandwiches, and don't you go anywhere. I know you're thinking that's too simple. Well, it's not, because I'm going to share with you several tips today that not only can you use when you're making open-faced tomato sandwiches, but you can use them when you're making other dishes as well. Did you also know that if you want to make some open-faced tomato sandwiches, that you can prep the day before and have so much of it already done, and then all you have to do is put it together? So let me show you how to do that. As I said, do not go anywhere. I want you to watch this entire video. You're going to love it. And I'll see you in just a minute and we'll get started. Okay, I am so excited to make these open-faced tomato sandwiches for you today, because I'm going to give you several tips along the way. You know, we're all big on tips. The first thing that I want to tell you is that I am using two different kinds of bread. I'm using whole wheat bread, and then I'm just using white wheat bread. So these are the breads that I'll be using. I'm going to be using mayo. This is what I use. You can use any brand that you like to do that. And then I'm using plum tomatoes today. These are a little bit bigger. You can use the little cherry tomatoes. But one of the tips that I want to show you is that I have, and I'm not promoting or selling, this is just what I have at home and use, but I have some nesting biscuit cutters. These just stack one on top of the other. That's why they're called nesting, and they just lift off, and you just choose the size that you want to. So today I'm going to be using, and here's a small one too, I'm going to be using this size biscuit cutter to cut my bread, and I kind of measured that based on the size of my tomato that I'm going to be using. These are plum tomatoes, so my little open-faced sandwiches are going to be a little bit bigger than I make them sometimes. If I had cherry tomatoes, I would cut my bread using this small one. If I wanted to make a larger one, I would just use the larger biscuit cutter. So I'm just going to be using this one right here. So we have our bread, we have our mayo, we have our tomatoes. And then I have some parsley here. I have some little kitchen shears here, some garnish shears. I think these came from Walmart. Not from Walmart, I'm sorry. They came from Amazon. My daughter gave them to me as a gift, and I love these, and I'll show you how these work. So we have salt and pepper, but I'm also going to give you a tip as to how you can prep and partially make these ahead of time, so that when you're having a party, or you're having guests, or you're serving your family, you're having a cookout, whatever you're having, that you can go ahead and have most of this already prepped and put together even the day before. And who would have ever thought that you could make a open-faced tomato sandwich of any kind the day before you serve it? So let's get busy, and we'll move along in the process, and I'll show you how to do each step. Okay, we're ready for step one in our prep. Remember, the day before, we are making these open-faced tomato sandwiches. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to cut my bread, and I'm using my little biscuit cutter here, and I can get about 3 rounds out of one piece of bread, and we'll save the leftover bread, and we can make croutons, or we can make bread pudding, or we can put it in the freezer and use it in our dressing around Thanksgiving. And that had a little piece of the edge left, so I'm just going to take my knife and just cut that right off and use that. So I've already cut a white piece of bread, so now I have my bread rounds here. Next, now remember, this is part of my tip. I am going to go ahead and place my mayonnaise on my bread. Yes, I am. I know you're not believing it, but I am. This is the day before. So I'm just placing my mayonnaise. You can put as little or as much as you want to on your bread rounds. Now, I know you're thinking, Joyce, what are you going to do with that? Well, I am going to place these together, the mayonnaise sides together, and I'm placing them in a plastic container, an airtight plastic container that's been lined with wax paper. You could use parchment paper, perhaps a saran wrap or something like that. But I've put a piece of wax paper in the bottom of my container. So now I'm just placing my bread that I've already put the mayonnaise on. I'm placing it in the container. So we'll do 2 or 3 of these so that you can get the gist of how we're doing this. I like a lot of mayonnaise. Doug doesn't care for quite as much as I care for, but I do love it. So we're just placing it, the mayonnaise sides together. And once we finish with this, we're going to place another piece of wax paper on top of each layer of bread. So remember, you put your mayonnaise on both sides. It's kind of like you're making a sandwich and you're putting your little sandwich together, but what you're really doing is just prepping your bread for your open-faced tomato sandwiches. So at this point, if you're making them the day before, you would have your layer of your bread rounds, and then you just place another piece of wax paper on top. And then you can continue making your rounds and placing them on top. And always put a piece of wax paper in between. So like I said, if you're making it ahead of time, then you would put the top on it, seal it tightly, put it in the refrigerator, and your bread would be ready for you when you get ready to put your sandwiches together. So that's tip 1. So now let's move to tip 2. Okay, we're ready for tip 2. If you want to, and your tomatoes are not overly ripe, then you can go ahead and slice your tomatoes the night before. So I'm just cutting off the end of the tomato, just like that. And I'll cut this little slice off right here, this little end piece. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my tomatoes, slice my tomatoes. I like to slice it probably about maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. And you can go ahead and do this the night before if you want to, if your tomatoes are not overly ripe. Now, let's do another one. So we're just taking our little tomato here. I'm going to cut the end off. And just slicing our tomatoes. You can wait until you get ready to put these together to slice your tomatoes if you want to. But if you're in a really big hurry, then you can go ahead and make them, slice them the day before. And what you want to do is just place them in your container, just like that. And put the lid on it, put them in the refrigerator, and you have your bread, it already has its mayonnaise, and you have your tomatoes sliced for when you get ready to put your sandwiches or your open-faced sandwiches together. Now, let me go ahead and show you. If you want to, you can go ahead and prepare your garnish. I'm using parsley, and I'm just going to cut the, well, actually I'm not going to cut that off yet. But these are the little shears that I was telling you about, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut my parsley. Look at that. I hope you can see this. And you can do this ahead of time as well. You can just go ahead and cut your parsley and then cover it or put it too in a little airtight container. And there you have it. Your parsley is ready to spread on your tomato sandwiches. So when you're ready to go to your party, serve your family, you've got all of this prepped. And then all you have to do is to put your open-faced sandwiches together. So now let's work on that. Okay, so now we're ready to put our open-faced tomato sandwiches together. We have made everything, prepped everything the day before, and now we're ready to put it together. So we're just going to take our bread, we're going to take it apart. There's our mayonnaise, and I'll go ahead and do a couple of these at the same time. So I'm taking the white wheat and the whole wheat bread. So now I'm just going to place my tomato on top of the bread, just like that. See how easy, quick and easy this is? This is a favorite too. Now, if you're taking this off, you may just want to add a little salt and leave off the pepper. But if you're taking it, if you're serving your family and you know that they like pepper, then you can go ahead and add a little bit of black pepper to that. And now we're just ready to take our garnish that we have prepped ahead of time and place it on top of the tomato. And that's just a little parsley that we're putting there on top. So now we're going to place these on our tray here, on our little pedestal dish that I have. And I'm going to continue working to put these little sandwiches together, open-faced tomato sandwiches. And when I get it all put together, then I'll come back and I'll show it to you. Okay, here's one beautiful tray or dish of open-faced tomato sandwiches.